We've hit the decade mark, my friends. It's been 10 years for our kids. Some are going extraordinarily well. One, I think, personally has flamed out. What about the others? Let's go find out. It's June 30th, 2033. You know, sometimes I get to this screen before I click on shortlist and I go, who should we look at first? Because I just literally just look at the names and we go. So, hello, my friends, popping in here towards the beginning of the episode. I am in the midst of editing this and I've noticed that some of the audio peaks and sounds a little distorted. I made a mistake in my recording software, which is OBS, which I was looking at potentially using for streaming, and I foolishly clicked auto configure settings, thinking it would just do it on the new profile in the recording software that I set up for streaming. And instead it wiped the entire profiles, which means it also reset the audio. So while I have my mic turned way down, it is peaking before it even gets to OBS because of the inputs, I think, in Windows. So it's not like the episode is ruined, but there are going to be times where it sounds a little electronic. I can't do anything about it. And the bad news is I've done it on this episode and the following episode because I've recorded them back to back. My apologies there. If you'd like to support the channel so maybe I could get a better mic and a board and setup and all that kind of stuff, you can go to patreon.com/grayhairgaming. We are on the cusp of having YouTube memberships on the channel. It might be live by the time you see this video. As well as, if you're going to buy FM26, I have a link for 22% off. It automatically applies my discount code for you if you plan to pre-order, and that link is in the description. Again, sorry about the audio. There's nothing I can do about it, and I don't have time to go back and redo it. And even if I did, you'd be getting fake reactions from me. So I think we're just going to live with it, and I'll fix it moving forward. So I guess we'll start with Chase, who was, I think, had bids in. He was listed for $14.5 million. He had all the loans, and Chase has moved. Chase has gone to Besiktas. Theme in the real world of players going to Turkey in large droves. So you got a guy from PSG who's not playing. He's on loan, though. He's not actually gone to Besiktas. He's on loan. Oh, dear. His contract's up tomorrow. They paid all of his wages, and PSG made a little bit of money on him. Did he play? Yes, he did. Let's zoom down. 27 starts, 14 clean sheets. Okay. You can see all the stats there. Ooh, Continental, 16 conceded and 10 starts with 1 clean sheet on a 6.49. Not the best. He does get 8 international starts, so that is going really well. So he's playing, and actually that's his highest rating. If I zoom us back out, that's his highest rating of his career with like league play. So that's good in a way. And PSG, they've earned back what they paid for him, not to mention the wages. Let's just ignore the wages. Wages aren't important to PSG. And I remembered to bring back the attribute analysis. There it is. I don't have the last video pulled up right now, but I think his technical abilities have improved, right? Like double-digit, yellow, all good things. The mentals and the physicals really just, I feel like, I'm sure there's been like maybe minor adjustments. But we talked about, 25.5 to 26.5. You're still developing, right, as a goalkeeper. I feel like his technicals are really improving. So do you think, and I want to hear from you in the comments, does Chase have a chance? Like, is he ever going to escape PSG? And if so, does he have a chance to actually be a pretty good keeper? I mean, Besiktas is a good level. What happened with Besiktas? Okay, they finished third, but like they kind of have been finishing second and third the entire time. And Chase has only got 2 years left on a deal. So is he just going to keep, getting the bag at PSG and getting loaned out? I guess, again, not a bad living. I was wondering about the number of games. Like, did he get loaned later or earlier? But he was out for 3 weeks in April, so kind of towards the end of the season with that twisted ankle. And I think, oh gosh, 2 things in 2032. He had 4 weeks out with a calf strain and 2 days out with a bruised ankle. Was it Chase, I think, that left a comment that said, I might have a problem with injuries. Yeah, I mean, thankfully, nothing like several months in length, but that's his third 4-week injury of his career. I should have noted, and I didn't, there is an optional future fee for $15 million. Don't think they're going to get that. He was there, he joined a week after last episode, so it was just those injuries that caused him to not play as many games. And hopping over to international, it does appear that Chase has taken grasp of the starting job. because we're talking about World Cup qualifiers in the third round. He starts against Uzbekistan, does a 7.4, a loss to UAE, which I feel that is a bit surprising for Australia. Same thing with the draw with Uzbekistan. That seems, I don't know, let me know in the comments what you think about Australia. He does a 6.9 in that game. The one goal, probably not his fault. Ooh, oh no, does he have an own goal against Kuwait? He does a 6.0 with an own goal. We can't see that, can we? No, I don't have the... Okay. Yeah, so they draw with Kuwait. Maybe it was one of those fluke things. It hits off the bar, it hits off his back and goes in. Maybe, but a 6.0, not great. But he does a 7.7 against the Philippines. So, like, he bounces back strong. He gets that injury after that. So, in the next 2 games, he's not in the squad, but that's just an injury-related thing. Back against Uzbekistan, they draw again. He does a 5.8. Oh, gosh. I am loving the goalkeeper ratings in this. A 7.7 against Kuwait, so nice, strong comeback. But Australia's not scoring a ton of goals here, 1-0. So really, you need to have that goalkeeper doing strong. And they have a red card in the 23rd minute, and they still win. Chase stands on his head for a 7.7 to keep the clean sheet. Nice job, sir. 7.0 against Philippines and a 6.5 in a win against Indonesia. Look at all the injuries. Goodness me. I think that's all I can really show you on Chase. He kind of feels like I'm getting paid really well. I live in Paris, but every once in a while I go out on loan, like 3 loans in a row. Is that just going to be where he ends up? Or is he going to get tired of that as he maybe like his contract will be up when he's 28 and a half? Will that be the time for like, I need to go be the guy someplace? It's not really impacting his international career, so maybe not. All right, Chris was listed the last time we saw him. Let's look. He has moved. He has moved to Kaiserslautern. Boy, you know about the German like tour that he's doing, and it's a deal. Like he moved. He's not on loan. It's a 2-year deal. He signed in August of last year, 11,000 per week. So I think his wages have gone down. Relegation release clause of 170, minimum fee release clause of 275. I don't think anybody's going to come in for Chris for either of those amounts. He just looks all right. He's wanted though. I guess MLS. He's an American guy from New York City. You'd think he'd want to not go to Philly then, but you never know. That's just kind of hilarious. And Chris doesn't really play again. You pay $105,000 for a guy and you don't play him. Zooming down here, he gets 3 starts, 4 subs on a 6.23. Again, 6 internationals. So this is like the first time he's had more league appearances than he had international appearances. Yay. And it wasn't injuries keeping him out. It's probably more that like he is the guy covering the injuries would be my guess. Yeah, looking at the Kaiserslautern squad, he is a squad player. It's currently got him in, but maybe that's because somebody has a knock or is on loan and going back or whatever. So he's not even a regular starter. Kaiserslautern is in the Zweite Bundesliga, so it's that 2nd division level. So he's like the rotation backup guy. But again, this is one of the things that annoys me about this. Not about Chris's career, but it's just like, as a human manager, if I played a squad player, 3 starts and 4 subs, there would be riots. He's listed as happy, of course. Internationally goes okay. I know the rating didn't look that great, but a 2-1 win against Malta in the Nations League. They actually end up, they got the 2 wins against Malta. They are the middle team in the Nations League, so they're just fine there. I don't know, is there even a Nations League E? Maybe they would have been fine either way and just not finished bottom. He does a 6.8 there. Armenia, he does a 6.9 and a loss. So, like, that's 2 games back-to-back, 4 days apart. That looks pretty good. Against Malta, he switches sides and does a 6.6 with a yellow card, which is not great, but not terrible. They have Malta has a man sent off in the 9th minute, and they still score 2 goals after that. Yikes. He doesn't play against Armenia. Hopping into this year, he does a 7.1. That's like one of his best ratings I think we've seen. Against Latvia, they get smashed by Northern Ireland 5-0. He does a 5.9, but really when you look at the ratings, everyone did terrible there. The goalkeeper on a 5.2. Yikes. Okay. He does a 6.3 against Albania, and I guess he got, this is World Cup qualifying, obviously, against Serbia, he doesn't play, and maybe that's just because they weren't expecting to beat Serbia, or maybe he picked up a knock against Albania. It doesn't say he did, but or is it yellow card accumulation? It doesn't really matter now, does it? Also, hilariously, Chris is still listed as one of the top players, which is just saying a lot. So we'll leave it there. We'll have to see if he goes to MLS or not. Let's move on to the next player. Let's check out CDB. Still at AC Milan. World-class midfielder. Value has dropped. What happened? He's down to 182 million at the top instead of, I mean, he's getting older, clearly, so you're not paying for the potential as much as like the reality. He's still listed as a world-class midfielder, but he is wanted. Still Newcastle, Man City, and now PSG. Now that's interesting. So like they were kind of interested last time. Newcastle was listed as actively interested, I guess, and Man City was listed as rumored interest. PSG is now joining the mix. That's the who's who of the buying players for tons of money. He breaks his arm. He's out for 6 weeks at the end of the season. Has that cut his value in half? Probably not, but that's interesting. That probably also explains why he only has 29 total appearances, 27 of those being starts. But he picks up some goals here, so he's up to 6 goals, 4 players in the match, 12 assists, 7-4-3. The cup not going well for AC Milan the last couple of seasons. Continental 7.75 with a goal and 3 assists. Yikes, but only 4 games. So AC Milan not doing so hot despite that. And then he has, obviously, the internationals. Maybe those clubs are now interested a little bit more because he only has a year left on his deal. They don't have an automatic extension clause. AC Milan's not going to let him just walk, right? So, like, he's not listed as, like, opting out of contract. So they either have to think he's going to extend his contract or they're going to sell him after this episode, but before next episode. That's the only thing that makes sense, right? Like, you're not going to let CDB walk. That would be insane. AC Milan do win the league. I forgot they were in the Europa League, so that still doesn't make any sense about how few games he played, right? So he plays here, and he picks up an injury after a 7.9. So he plays in the first. I was thinking, like, did they just not use him in the Europa League phase? But, like, surely you would do that, right? He misses the next Europa League game. Did I miss an injury? Let's hold on a second. An 8.3 in that game. Oh, I did. 2032. He has, you talk about an injury mess. So what is this? I'll go across. 3 weeks for sprained ankle ligaments, comes back, gets a bruised shoulder for 5 days, then comes back 2 weeks later, gets a tight groin for 3 days. 2 months later, pulls a hammy for 2 weeks and then breaks his arm. I missed all of the 2032 things. So if you were already leaving a comment, I caught it eventually. But despite all of that, they make it through the Europa League phase. Clearly, he comes back in, does a 7.6 against Gordons. What's interesting is he doesn't play in the round of 16 first leg or the round of 16 second leg, and he's not in the squad. Did they unregister him because at the time of registration he was injured? He plays in the Coppa Italia semi-final first leg and does a 6.5, and he's back for the quarterfinal in the Europa League, and he plays one of those games, and then I think he breaks his arm, which probably happened against Roma. Roma destroyed him, and he's going to miss the rest of the season. That's interesting to me. I wonder if they unregistered him because at the time he was injured, but he wouldn't have been injured by the time they came back. That doesn't make any sense from like an AI manager standpoint, but less said about that, the better. Let's go back. It's July of 2032. They have a Euro quarterfinal game against Italy on July 3rd. CDB starts and does a 7.8. It goes to extra time and they get the win over Italy. They go to the semifinal. They take on France. CDB does a 7.4. It goes to penalties. 1-1. Let's actually look at this. I was like, are we allowed to look at this? It took a sweet time there. CDB takes the second penalty after Alexander Isak. At least I think the order goes left to right. They end up beating France 7-6 to make it to the Euro final. Did I say Euro final? I meant Euros final. And it is a 7.2, and Sweden beat Italy, France, and Germany to win the Euros. I feel like I have to do this. That is truly impressive. Truly impressive. And he does a 7.2. He rocks it out. Unbelievable. Due to his injury crisis, he doesn't play in the first 4 Nations League games. He comes back in against Slovenia and does a 7.3. They draw that game. And he does a 7.6 in a draw against Italy, who clearly are out for blood, and they injure 2 of the Swedish players in the match. One so early, he doesn't even get a rating. Come on, Italy. He's back in against Iceland, does a 6.5, does a 6.9 against Kazakhstan. You would expect the team that just won the Euros to beat Iceland and Kazakhstan by more than 1 goal each. Anyway, against Germany, because he's back after his broken arm, I guess, they're in the Nations League semifinal. He does a 7.0 and a loss to Germany. And then they lose to Spain 3-2. He does a 6.6. But it doesn't matter. CDB's won the Euros. So I think the thing to look out for next time with CDB, and we will highly anticipate this, he's either going to extend his contract and be like an AC Milan guy for life, or AC Milan's going to go, we got a lot of good run out of this guy. Like, we probably need to sell him. Let's check, actually, if we go back to the clubs that are interested. First off, let's stick with AC Milan. Who is in charge? Still Luis Enrique. De Zerbi's still at Man City, who coached him, obviously. Marco Rose just got sacked by Newcastle, so that probably isn't the situation unless like Klopp or whatever goes to Newcastle. And Pep is at PSG, so that's very interesting. We're going to go to Greg Bros next because I'm not anticipating him having moved. I'm curious about the other players, so we're going to leave them until the end, my friends. Greg is still at Real Madrid. He's still on 350 grand a week. He's still on a contract until 2036. He's got 3 years left. Let's just pause. You see, yeah, over here. There it is. You see all these green numbers? That's pretty nice, isn't it? That's pretty nice if you're Greg Bros. Holy cow. I am so stunned by this. Let's dive in. First off, he gets a hernia 3 days after last episode. He's out for 3 weeks, so he just misses some of preseason, and that's it. And last season, 32 starts, 1 sub, 718, 9 goals, 7 assists, 16 goal involvements. Only 1 player of the match, so a little bit of a fall off from last season when he was on a 7-2-1 in the league with 3 players of the match. 7.4 in the cup. 13 continental starts with a sub on a 7-2-9, and then 10 international starts on a 7-3-8. I am loving this. I mean, this is just great. As you might expect, Madrid win. Now, they didn't win the previous season, but, that was a bit of a blip. And also, I don't think I looked at this before with Madrid. Ancelotti takes them for 7 years and then resigns. Like, he's retired. I'm 71. Like, not bad. But that was obviously in 2028. Oh, now this is interesting. Greg is showing up as the right midfielder, not the left winger. So remember last time we were talking about you got Endrick, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Jude. How are we going to fit all these guys in? Well, we're just going to put Greg because he can play in a midfield role. He's got it down here. Not as well, from a green versus dark green versus light green or whatever, but he's got the attributes. I mean, good grief. Central midfielder on attack. Yeah, looks pretty good. This is unbelievable. I just love this. It's just that for me that he's Irish. We're not going to look at all these because it's Real Madrid and you'd expect them to do really well. It is interesting. They get knocked out by Arsenal in the Champions League quarterfinal. Okay, in the first leg, Greg does a 7.2 and a 1-0 loss, and he does a 7.4 and a 2-1 loss. That is, go on Arsenal, I guess. And I was like, well, then how did he have so many continental games? They were in the Club World Cup. Of course they were. Greg doesn't play in the first game. He plays in the second game and does an 8.6 with a brace against Atlanta United. Poor Atlanta United is like, oh, we got Real Madrid. Great. And then they beat Sporting 1-0 with a first goal minute. They didn't do anything else the rest of the game. Greg does a 7.2. They beat Barcelona in the second round in extra time. Oh, that game sold really, really well, you would imagine. Where is this Barabati Stadium? In India. We're playing the Club World Cup in India in the summer. Okay, Greg does a 6.6 there. And then they haven't played the quarterfinal yet where he's going to be playing against Pyramids. So life is good as your Greg. No one's sniffing around interested. He's kind of in the prime of his career. He's starting for Real Madrid. His value has surpassed CDB's. Oh dear. Is it a passing of the torch? Or is that just having to do with the length of contract that's left? Probably that, right? They're both, like, he's an elite winger. CDB is like world-class midfielder. So, it's fine. Let's check in on Marcus. I'm assuming he's not left Real Sociedad. He has not. Contract still until 2036, 38 grand a week. Did he play? Yeah, kinda. Why? Last season, he gets 9 starts and 19 subs, and he does 10 goals with that. This season, they give him 4 starts and 9 subs with 4 goals on a 6.68. I am gutted by that. And I'm surprised. I don't know Real Sociedad that well. Clearly, I thought they were called Real San Sebastian last episode. 10.75 million seems like a lot of money to have a guy. Now, we've got Gustav, I guess, who's, we eased him into the squad. But, like, did he get injured? That's the only thing I think of is, like, why did he go backwards in the club's estimate, in the club's utilization? Not really. He misses 3 weeks plus 6 days with a cold, tight calf and twisted ankle. So that doesn't really explain it. Now, he did tear his hamstring. We saw that last episode, and that took 2 months. So that's now you're getting to like middle of July before he's back. So did he miss, some of preseason and like getting into fitness, that is still disappointing. He doesn't make his first appearance until September 1st, so he misses the first 4 games of the season, and he starts and he scores in the 19th minute. So I'm wondering if they subbed him off, because he was still working on getting his fitness back. But no, he goes the full 90, and they still end up losing 2-1. Look at all the yellows. And then he subs on in the next game in the 58th minute, and 8 minutes later comes off injured. Oh. Yeah, he comes back against Barcelona a couple games later, after the September-October international break. He does a 6.4. Just inconsistent use. So I'm not going to go down now. They do play him in the Copa del Rey, especially at the beginning, right? You can see he scores in the 4th minute against Jerez. I'm sorry if that's incorrect. Why am I trying this? Melilla? Ah, gosh, disaster. He scores in the 3rd minute. Marcus likes to score early and often. I think we've seen that in his international career too. Goodness. And then he comes, does he come in or does he start? But it doesn't matter. He does 84th minute winner against Eibar. And then he scores in the 70th minute, but it's not enough in a 3-2 loss to Almeria in the Copa del Rey 4th round. So they're utilizing him, but he is currently listed as sub 4, but there isn't a sub 2. So right now he's the 3rd player off the bench. He's listed as a regular starter and he's concerned once again, as you do. That's what's disappointing is, this guy's, super important. But we've instead decided to go with Sekou Mara, who's also concerned, 10 starts, 13 subs. Who played in the striker role? If we just go to appearances, Pablo Enrique, surely that's not your striker though, right? That's a winger. That's a pacey winger. He gets 33 starts. Karim Konate, who is an important player, is the starter. Fair enough, I guess. But, hey, expects to start the majority of matches and hasn't. What's sad is despite the lack of playing time, right? 787 total minutes is crazy low. He is the 3rd highest goal scorer for the club. You might use him. And they have a huge drop off to 8th, clearly, because Marcus isn't starting. That makes me wonder if Marcus might be sold. You've got a guy who's unhappy. You're going with the other guy right now. You've doubled his value. If you just sell him for 23 million, you paid 10.75, 11 if you count like loyalty bonuses and whatever, maybe 12 or 13. You could make a profit if you sell him right now. He's got time left on his contract and he's good enough to be playing, but you're just not playing him. I'm surprised by this. I thought this was like, okay, Marcus is going to make a move. Let's go. He's still listed as the best international player for Indonesia. Oh dear, they played a lot of games. We're not going to go through all these, but he does play it in the World Cup qualifiers. Does a 7.2 in a win against the Philippines. He starts, obviously, again, 7th minute and 21st minute brace against Kuwait. Loves to score early goals. That's another win. Scores the winner in the 65th minute against Uzbekistan. Doesn't play? Or was he injured? This is part of the injury run for him, I guess. Does a 6.3 against Australia. So Chase, keeps all the shots out. And then they come back and they beat Kuwait 2-0. And he does a 7.0 with a goal there. He's not involved in the AFF championship because I think, again, that's the thing where you have to be based in Asia to be playing that. But comes back into the World Cup qualifiers into the next year. Bags a brace by the 38th minute against the Philippines for a win. Does a 7.1, but doesn't score, shocker, against Uzbekistan in a 3-1 win. Does a 6.4 against UAE, but one of his attacking teammates is sent off on a 5.2 with a red card. So clearly makes it difficult to score there. And then again, Chase keeps out the goals and does a 6.7 and a loss. I was wrong. It wasn't Chase in the previous year against Australia. That was when Chase was injured. It was Anthony Pavlecic. So currently Indonesia are in the playoffs. They are 6 points clear. I think there's 2 games left. 2 games left. So India and Iran. Oh, that's the 4th round Group A. I guess that's the playoffs. It's a don't finish last against those other nations. So they got 2 games. We'll see how it goes. And Marcus has slowly, if we look at his attributes here for a second, slowly gotten good. Like it took some time, at least that's what my perception is. It's been several days since I've recorded the previous episode, but when I look at this, I go, okay, like we're making progress because we're playing more, and then maybe it's not progress as much as last season. I don't know, but he's got a 16 on the dribbling and he's still a pacey guy. That's my concern, I guess, overall, is like you need to get those technicals up there because eventually those physical attributes are going to fail you. So the fact that he's still finishing on a 13 is not great, but he's still the third highest goal scorer at the club last season. That is wild. We'll move on. Let's go check on James because he was stuck at Benfica. We saw that drop off. He's moved. Ooh, and it doesn't say loan, my friends. He has gone to Feyenoord. Okay. And he's also wanted by Liverpool. What? I cannot believe Benfica. I mean, they didn't have that much invested in him beside wages, but they let him leave on a free at the end of the season, like last year. That is crazy. That is crazy. He goes to Feyenoord on a free. He finally gets to play. Just like when he went to France, he does 22 starts, 8 subs, 4 goals, 5 assists, 6.95. He gets some continental exposure. He gets some international games. None of these ratings are amazing, although it is the tied for second best ratings he's ever had. Okay, to be fair, let me unzoom. The best rating he ever had was in the 3rd division in Portugal, where he only had 2 games. So for his actual career of like, I'm trying to be in the first team, it's his highest average rating, tied, going all the way back to when he played in the 2nd division in Portugal, 6.95. Yay! Now, it's interesting to me. You got a guy who's 26. He's making 45.5 grand a week. He's now worth 30 to 90 million because of the move, the contract length, etc. When did he sign? He started like the first day? No, it was until August 6th. So Feyenoord's like building their squad. And they're like, let's go see who else is available. Oh, there's that guy who nobody's signed. Sure, we'll take him. And they utilize him. So good on them. But now Liverpool, I don't know if I would say he's a Liverpool player. Like if you think about, Greg and CDB at those like high level clubs. But I guess if you do play him in that, number 10 role as an advanced playmaker, he's got the yellow double digits where you want it. You could argue the anticipation could be better and the teamwork and whatever, but like the core first touch passing technique, and he's got some good agility, maybe, but that would be really surprising. I mean, if you're a Feyenoord, I think you probably take that, right? If he's worth 30 to 90 million, you sell him for 40 million or 45 million to Liverpool on a guy you got for free, you bite their hand off, right? Like, that's what I would do. He does have a couple of minor things, but misses, including preseason, right? Like, misses like 7 weeks, but 3 weeks of that was during preseason with a twisted ankle as soon as how did he? Oh, it was against Brazil. I'm like, how does he have an injury in a preseason game? It wasn't a preseason game. It was something internationally. I guess it was Copa America. Okay. I'm caught up. Feyenoord finished 2nd in the Eredivisie, and it's relatively close. They are only 4 points off top with AZ. Ajax 3 points behind them. He doesn't start in the first game against SK Sturm Graz, which I'm doing a series on, because he literally, I think, hasn't signed yet, or signed like the day before. Or was it the 6th? No, he signed on the 6th. He signs on the 6th, and he plays on the starts on the 7th on a 6.5. You talk about throwing him right in. Like, you might have given him like a week of training or something like that before you throw him in. But they get past Sturm Graz in the Champions League path, 3rd qualifying round, first and second leg. They get past Antwerp. He's not registered for those, obviously, because they probably did the registration in advance. But they make it to the Champions League phase, which is congrats. Does he play there? He does. Against Borussia Dortmund, he does a 6.8. Rosenborg, he does a 6.5, picks up a knock. Against Lille, he comes on, but very late, not enough to get a rating. Against Inter Milan, he does a 6.9. Against Juve, he does a 6.6. Slavia Prague, he does no rating, but comes on as a late sub. Katwijk, maybe? No, that's I was like, the Champions, what? That's the I guess the Dutch Cup second round. Is that what the KNVB Becker third round is? I know KNVB is like the league. Anyway, against Atletico Madrid, he does a 6.7. Against Real Madrid, we didn't know this at the time, but our guys are facing off against each other and probably in midfield. So he does a 6.8, but they get absolutely destroyed. So, it's not like you're expecting Feyenoord to pull up any trees when you get to the Champions League, but, that's exciting. They make it to the semifinal of the Cup, but they lose over they lose. It's not 2 legs. They lost to Ajax outright on it, but he does a 6.8. So like, he's playing all right. The important thing is that he's playing, right? So that he's in the mix. He's in a team that picked him up for free, and they're like, yeah, let's utilize this guy, which is also kind of interesting when you might favor guys you spent money on, but maybe they just haven't spent all that much money. I guess I don't know exactly where all these players sit, so we're not going to worry about it. But it's just hilarious that, like, and with all the money being spent, we pick up this guy for a free, and we play him 30 games plus 4 in the cup. Pretty good. Hopping over international, yes, it was the Copa America quarterfinal. They lost 3-0 to Brazil. He goes out super early with an injury, not enough to even get a rating. That's gutting. And then we're into World Cup qualifying. He doesn't play the first game against Peru. Against Argentina, he comes on as a sub, does a 6.8, scores in the 4th minute against Ecuador, but they lose 3-1. That's disappointing, but it's not James's fault. He did a 7.1. They lose to, or they draw to Venezuela. He doesn't play there. They beat Paraguay. Goodness gracious, they beat Paraguay 1-0 when Paraguay play the entire second half, a man down, and then 30 minutes of that second half, more than 30 minutes of that second half, 2 men down, and they only score in the 81st minute, and James does a 6.8. You would hope that would be when, like, your number 10 would cook, right? Like, surely there's more space. Or maybe just Paraguay just put 6 in the back line. 5 in the back plus a libero or something. Like, that is wild. Okay. And then they lose, unfortunately, 3-2 to Brazil. James does a 7.1. That's not his fault. Chile, they get a 3-0 victory. He's not there. He does a 6.3 with a knock against Uruguay and a loss. So overall, you go, oh, that's not great. But Colombia is currently 4 points clear of Peru from the qualification standpoint. So they're looking pretty good for that. And I think, honestly, the most important thing is that James is playing. He's playing internationally. He's got a club that's playing him. He's getting paid. He got a move. And he's got a huge club. Maybe I'm assuming something here. Is Liverpool still a huge club? Looking to generate funds before making an offer as they currently lack the financial power to do so. I mean, that kind of sounds like Liverpool. Sell to buy, right? Sell to buy. People are going to be very upset with that. I'm going to get all sorts of comments. Liverpool have fallen way off. Holy cow. 5th, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 6th, and then back to 3rd. They have they've not really cycled through managers. So Vincenzo Italiano somehow survives 6 years with a debacle. So that's interesting because it's like FM hadn't updated to have Schlott in there. So anyway, Unai Emery comes in and resigns after 2 years, and now it's Sebastian Honish. The B is it's like foosball. Honish. Who used to be Real Sociedad coach. Interesting. I mean, not the Real, like in real life, he's the Stuttgart manager, but you get the idea. Regardless, that's still a big move. You'd be moving to the Premier League. I'm still not convinced, especially when it says they don't have the financial power to do so because they're not. They've probably been in the Conference League and then the Europa League, so they're not generating as much revenue. But I'm happy for James. Let's move on. Last but not least, it's Gustav, and he's still with Juve. 215 grand, my friends. He was on like 90 grand and then 120 and now 215. That has to be a new contract. He signed it in August of last year. It is a new 5-year deal with an optional contract extension. 6 million left on the loyalty bonus. Gustav has arrived. Of course, I said that without seeing the number of games he's played, but yes, he's played. He played 33 starts and 1 sub. 6'9", again, center back. Okay. Cup starts, Continental, 9 Continental. International, not so hot, 6'7". But the good news is the number of games he has played has increased every single year at Juve, right? Like, once he got out of next gen, right? 1, 3, 13, 14, 29, 34. And so he is clearly starting. He picks up his first goal, gets his 3rd assist ever, and his 2nd player of the match. They do have the title slip through their fingers. They go and finish 2nd, losing to AC Milan with CDB by 11 points. I don't know if that doesn't really seem like it's all that close, to be honest with you. He remained injury-free. I took a look at it. It was like bruised foot, bruised thigh. He missed like a total of less than a week. They lose in the Coppa Italia final to AC Milan, CDB and Xavi Simon. And they get knocked out of the Champions League by PSG, not with Chase, on a 3-0 aggregate scoreline. And that's gutting because at home, they hold firm on a 0-0, although Gustav does a 6.0. And then they get smashed in Paris, even though, oh no, that's because their goalkeeper does a 5.8. Gustav does a 6.7. He does just fine. But yeah, starts the season in the league on a 6.4, just kind of hopping around 7.5. Against Bayer Leverkusen, he does a 7.2. So again, they've switched it now to a 4 at the back. At least I think that's a switch. He's on a star player contract. Is he the highest paid? No, but he's up there. He's making less than the regular starters, but he's 26. Maybe I don't know why that is. Maybe it's when the contracts were signed or something like that. But overall, he's doing really well. He's 5th on the Hungarian list for top players, and I thought he started most games or was in most games, but he does a 7.1 in a win against Israel in the Nations League B, the group stage, obviously. He does a 6.3 against Croatia. He does a 6.8 in a loss to Austria, but then he doesn't play against Croatia again, third game in essentially a little bit more than a week or right at a week. And then he doesn't play against Israel or Austria again. And is that because they couldn't win, maybe? They finished on 7 points, but they couldn't get relegated out of the group. Israel and Austria. Maybe that's why. I don't know I don't remember him having a knock, because again, it was bruised, whatever, but maybe the timeline works out. In the World Cup qualification, interesting. So we have more Wonderkid versus Wonderkid going on here. Ireland, he draws. He gets his goal against Ireland on a 6.8. Was it not that good of a goal? We can't see the fixture details. I can't even click on it, so that's disappointing, but that's hilarious. Doesn't play against Gibraltar, maybe for tiredness because it was 3 days apart. They beat Moldova 2-0. They have a man sent off in the 14th minute. Gustav and the back line hold strong. Somebody does an 8.5. Can't see that either. I guess he's a center back. An 8.5 is unbelievable for anybody in the back line. Maybe he got some assists or something. We can't tell. And they score at the end of the game. Moldova absolutely gutted. Oh, geez, you're playing against 10 men and you're holding on. And then Gustav gets a straight red against Bulgaria on a 6.0. They still win 2-1. The keeper does a 6.0 as well. Kind of a weird game. So that's not great. So I think this is Gustav's probably his biggest contract, because 4 years from now, or 3 years from now, I guess, when that contract has a year left, he'll be 29 and a half. So he might have one more big contract in him. But I think he's I'm an Italian guy. I'm a Juve guy. He's been there since 24-25. They develop him slowly through the ranks, and now he's starting for the second season in a row. I think he's pretty content there. He's in the national team. Not bad. I think what I'm most surprised with is that CDB is now 3rd in the valuation. But again, I think that probably has more to do with the contract length. So for the first time in a long time, we're kind of left in a spot where you go, is anybody going to move? If anybody's going to move, it's probably CDB, right? Marcus should probably move. He's unhappy. He's concerned about his playing time. Mithriak just moved to Feyenoord and they're playing him. Now he might move, but it's he doesn't need that necessarily. He's playing for a club. He's getting starts. That's going great. So CDB is kind of the big question mark going into next episode, my friends. So if you've enjoyed this, hit that like button and we'll see you next time.